ready? Man to man, break.
It's high school football now. Presented by Fourth Down Magazine with Eric Epler and Andy Shay. Time for a look at Central PA football. Here are Eric Epler and Andy Shay.
Welcome to another edition of High School Football Now. We are presented by Fourth Down Magazine. Woo! There is a ton to talk about in this edition of High School Football Now. But first, my partner, Andy Shay. How are you, Mr. Shay?
I'm exhausted, as are you. It's only, it's not even the middle of the week and we're exhausted.
It's been nutty. It's been crazy. A lot has happened over the last 24 hours. We will dive into all of that over the next 60 minutes. Let's do a quick rundown of what's happening. Of course, quarter number one, we're going to open with the week that was. We're going to tell you a few of the bigger games, the bigger outcomes, and what they mean to the postseason. Speaking of postseason, in quarter number two, we will break down the District 3 brackets.
They're official now.
They are official now. They were official about 12 hours ago, and then 11 hours ago they changed. And then I don't know, they may change again. Who knows? In the year of COVID, anything is possible. We'll break down some slights. We'll break down some of the heavy favorites. And then we'll move on to, of course, our quarter number three, where we bring in real live football players. This week, we got a head coach, Susquehanna Township Joe Heaton will join us. And senior H-back and linebacker, Owen Weiner. They will be here, quarter number three. Quarter number four, we raise them up. We do picks and predictions. We got postseason picks to add to this big schedule. There's people playing everywhere.
It's a mess.
People playing football everywhere. It's a little bit messy, but we'll take you through it and pick some predictions. Whew. All right, let's get going, brother. Let's fire it up quick.
Fire it up. Let's talk about it. Monday night. Harrison got its game. State College said yes. The Cougars traveled.
Yeah.
That game was on Monday night, and it seems like 30 hours ago based on everything that's happened.
It does seem a little long ago. I don't think anybody was really interested in this game at all or the outcome at all. I don't really know. My phone was blowing up because apparently it was thrown together so quickly. The hero here was Matt Lintel, the head coach for State College.
Yep.
As you guys know, we've talked about this in the past couple of weeks. Harrisburg has been searching desperately for that fourth game. You need a minimum of 4 to qualify for the District 3 playoffs. Matt Lintel said, hey, we just lost in the District 6A championship game to Altoona. Whale of a football game, by the way.
Yeah, heck of a game.
We'll talk about that one as well. But they decided to say, you know what? This is a rescheduled game. They were supposed to play Harrisburg Friday, but had to pull out to play the District 6 final. And said, we're going to play you Monday. So at the witching hour, Harrisburg got the game, won 41-6. Quarterback John McNeil. I called him John McNair for a whole half of football. Pretty much. I was feathering back to my early Titans, Nicholls State University days. But anyway, John McNeil with 2 TD passes, touchdown rush, great defensive effort by Harrisburg. Pretty much the second half was devoted completely to reserves. It was 27-0 at halftime, and it got worse from there. So it was pretty touching actually after the game. Harrisburg obviously owed State College a solid, gave them a lot of respect in the post game, clap for them afterwards, midfield, a lot of fist bumping going on. It was a really good sign. They do owe State College one for getting them in.
They do.
There is a big however, and we'll get over that one too. But great. Harrisburg moved to 4-0. With that victory, they earned the top seed in the District 3 6A playoffs.
And a home game.
And home game throughout. Yes, the next 2 weeks.
But based on what's happened in the last 24 hours, that game was
Yeah.
And it seems like it was 2 months ago.
It does, yes.
It does.
We'll get into what happened. Probably it would have been less than 14 hours later.
It's COVID. That's all you need. It's COVID.
Anyway.
Let's keep going, E. Let's do Boiling
Let's
Springs.
go. We'll talk about that in quarter number 2.
Yeah, let's do Boiling Springs 35, Camp Hill Zero?
I'm raising my hand.
Yeah.
I'm raising my hand if you did not see this coming. You know what? The outcome, we both had Bowling Springs. We both picked Bowling Springs in this football game. So the victor is not a surprise for us, but zero? Camp Hill's offense, zero? That is a blue-collar, coal miner job defensively for the Bubblers. That's a great win for them. And obviously it settles them in. It settles them into the District 3 playoffs as well. Yes, you have to go to Wyomissing now, but
who cares?
Still, great game. Great overall game for Bowling Springs.
So when I said last week, based on what I saw, is 4 quarters enough to form an opinion? Generally, no. But in COVID, you get what you can take, right? So I'm like, based on what I saw against Middletown the week before when I saw them in person, I saw Middletown dudes running wide open in the passing game, right? Receivers running everywhere, open. They were tough against the run, even though Tymere Jackson had 175 yards. They were solid against the run, and I figured Camp Hill get them some, right? Yeah. I still thought the Bubblers were going to win the game, but I'm like, Camp Hill's going to get them some. Boiling Springs is still the better football team. They're going to win the game. 35-0 to me is shocking. I mean, well done. Remember we talked last week about the physical aspect of the game?
Yes.
That probably played a huge role in this, don't you think?
I think it probably did, and because, it's not hard to shackle Daniel Schuster, keep him out of the scoreboard. You know what I mean? The way they run that offense at Camp Hill. It's very difficult to keep them off the scoreboard. You may beat them, but they're going to hang tough, and that's a whale of a football game for Boiling Springs. Good for them. They're headed to the postseason. All right, Carlisle 35, Cedar Cliff 28. Surprised?
No. A good win for the Herd. When we talked about this game last week, I said if they play anything close to the previous 8 quarters they'd played against Central Dauphin and State College, because they were playing their 3rd game in a week because they played Friday, Monday. They played Friday against Central Dauphin, Monday against State College,
right,
and then Friday against Cedar Cliff, right? They had the open date. They rescheduled the game, didn't take Harrisburg. They decided to play Cedar Cliff. I mean, if they kept playing like that, it was their game to lose. And they got out to a big lead and then held on. Eventually, 3 games in 7 days are going to catch up to you, right?
Yes.
But, I mean, Sean Smith, 333 yards.
That was the one we didn't factor in, and having such a whale of a football game for Sean Smith. Huge effort in that one. But, overall good football game.
Cedar Cliff's not very good, right? But they're not bad. And we know they got some guys up front. You're running for, 300 plus against them and 4 touchdowns. Dude, you better be buying your offensive line some Hamilton Hachi dogs or something, because those boys went to work and loaded their lunch pails up. But it's a good win for Carlisle because they had been trending in that direction by the way they played against quality opponents.
Yeah, a few weeks ago when Jonte Morris went down there running back too, it's hard to throw another guy in there and say, listen, you're now our workhorse. Right. That's what Jonte was going to be, and he added another element too, also as the outside in the passing game. So tough break for Cedar Cliff, but very good win for Carlisle.
When you need high-quality printing that is affordable and completed on a tight deadline, choose Fortney Printing. Fortney Printing has been locally owned and trusted for more than 3 decades. Whether you're a large corporate client, a team, a school, or individual with a small job, Fortney Printing will treat you like family. Call them or email them today and mention Fourth Down Magazine. You can call them at 717-939-6422 or email them at adam@fortneyprinting.com. Fortney Printing, your trusted source for promotional items, printing, and PP&E in the Harrisburg area. All right, let's keep zipping around. This is my game Friday night that I went and took a peek at. Mechanicsburg 35, Waynesboro 7.
Waynesboro, I've seen them enough now. I've seen them twice in person. You just look up at the scoreboard, all of a sudden they're up 21 points. Like, it's just you don't know if it's all short fields, or it's Micah Brubaker making a big play, or Taylor Shearer, or Caleb Brubaker on the outside. It's just it seems like they score very swiftly against teams and then just sort of glide home.
Yeah.
I mean, Coach Coach Rose, is not taking a lot of chances, mixing in guys here and there. But, I mean, man, that's first 24 minutes from Mechanicsburg this season, have been tremendous. That's where they've sort of set the tone, and then everything else is just sort of maintain, and we go home with a 28-point victory. I mean, it's been that way for 3-4 weeks now.
It's been that way for a month. So this game was a little bit different in that it wasn't the offense lighting it up in the first half.
Yeah.
Gainsborough's defense just wrecked this game.
Pick six.
Caleb Brubaker by himself they blitz him from anywhere and everywhere. They have a myriad of blitz packages for him, and you have no idea where he's coming from. And like his brother, he's really fast. I mean, he had a strip sack, and that was a fumble that they turned into a touchdown. Then James Anderson had a 45-yard pick six. And their offense was not, like, lighting it up. They sputtered a bit. They weren't lights out, right? They had 300-ish total yards. But the defense set them up for a touchdown, pick six for another. And
that's what I mean. Like all of a sudden, they got a short field, and it's a 14-point swing in 3 minutes.
It's over. So, all right, Altoona won the District 6 championship. Yes. 22-21 over State College, and a little bit of a foreshadow for what was coming for Pennsylvania fans of the Penn State University and State College. It was a 2-point conversion.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, congratulations to Altoona. I mean, these guys have worked their tail off. We talked about this in week 1 and 2. I mean, they've really had no traction in the Mid-Penn since rejoining the Mid-Penn 3 years ago. They shoved them obviously in the Commonwealth Division, which is where they wanted to be. And that's not easy on newbies. And so they took their lumps, but this year, boy, they always play hard. They don't have the greatest record. They're not undefeated, but to win the District 6 title over State College, who usually you just pencil them in. Right. You know what I mean? You just put them in there in that slot. And then they go and play, probably the District 10 and McDowell or somebody, in the state, whatever, the second round. I guess it would be the first round.
I mean, they scored a touch. The way they won this game was they scored a touchdown with 122 to play, and they went for 2 to win it.
Yes.
And they got it.
Yes.
And that takes some guts, and guts is good enough. And they're going to play Williamsport, right?
They play Williamsport now this week. Yep. In that 6.
They're the favorite.
6-9-2, 6-2 thing.
Whatever it is. They're the favorite.
6-4.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, another quick hitter. Hershey 20, Lower Dolphin 3.
Yeah, I think Rob Clark, LD's head coach, will tell you this is probably their best effort. I mean, this was 7-3 game at halftime, 13-3 until 1:03 left in the game when Hershey tacked on some insurance. It was a good physical battle. I mean, it really was. It wasn't pretty football by any means. There were a lot of lulls in the action, but it was a good physical football game. I mean, I was impressed with how Hershey just sort of, I don't want to say they were methodical because they took some shots, but defensively they held up. Lower Dolphin played well. It was just, I think it played out as it should have played out.
So they made another goal line stand, Hershey. That's the second game in a row and third time in 5 games where their defense has come up with a goal line stand that was timely and it mattered, right?
Yeah.
And
it did because earlier in the game, really on LD's first drive, it looked very good.
Right.
They had a touchdown pass. Well, it was ruled incomplete to Anger, the tight end. And it looked like he did twist around and get control. But actually, the back judge called it, and the back judge didn't have the greatest angle. I know because I'm standing right there. And it just, he basically said that it hit the turf. But if that gets called a touchdown, you get a little buzz in your step. It might have been different. But Mark Painter said it best. He goes, you know what? It doesn't matter that we were 4-0 and they hadn't won a game. This is our rivalry game. It's always going to be tough. And it was. It was a tough physical game.
Hershey defense, 2 sacks, 5 tackles for a loss, and 2 picks.
That's right.
It's the reason they're 5-0. It's it. They have been markedly improved on defense. All right.
Yep.
Quick hitters, then we're going to get out of here. Chambersburg 20, Cumberland Valley 10.
And the Eagles' offense just has not gotten any better.
Yep.
They can't keep possession. They can't move the chains, and that is not a good recipe to win.
Yeah, even if you're in the Commonwealth Division, it doesn't matter what Cumberland Valley's record is, right? You beat the Eagles, it's a special win.
It's a good win. Yep.
Congrats to the Trojans. All right, Warwick keeps killing cats, and Calico's not bad. 49-14.
Yeah, that was the rivalry, obviously, but rich get richer. Warwick's just tough. I always use the word lean. when talking about Warwick, they lean on you, and then eventually you fall, and that's what happened.
There's nothing surprising here, right? Even the 35-point spread isn't.
No, not with this team.
No, it's just not surprising. All right, Elko punched its playoff ticket. We'll talk about that more in quarter number 2.
Yep.
They beat Columbia 42-13. Oof.
Yeah, the way Robert Footman was kind of running that offense at Columbia, the quarterback, dual threat, very good athlete. I was a little surprised by the margin of victory in this one. But we both did think that Braden Bohannon and Elko was going to win this. So congrats to them on the Section 4 title.
Yeah, holding Footman that offense at 13 points, that is what is intriguing to me about Elko moving forward as they head into the playoffs.
Yep.
Defense to go along with Braden and all that rushing offense, it could be interesting, right?
Absolutely.
All right, 2 more before we get out. Shippensburg 25, East Pennsboro 22.
Yeah, we almost felt like that. I mean, at least personally, I felt like Shippensburg was due to get one of these. You know what I mean? And East Pennsboro was the cool kid on the block for the past couple of weeks. And, Shippensburg has a way of muddying their opponent's game plan. Sooner or later, it's going to happen. And I think that happened here. So, good win for Shippensburg. Like I said, I think they were due to nab one of these.
Yeah, but, dude, if Isaiah Hauser goes 3 for 136 with 2 touchdowns, Chip's going to win. Yes. East Pennsboro had to avoid the big plays from him, right? They couldn't do it. Otherwise, they played a good game.
I would throw it to him 112 times a game.
Steel High 65. Yes, 65. Big Spring 30. Epler.
I thought the game would be close at halftime. I really believed the Big Spring had the goods. It was not close at halftime. I understand that. Don't rub it in. Don't make me feel bad about my picks, Andrew.
And Steel High is still a running team, right? After dropping a 65 bomb on somebody.
They're still a running team.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right. Yeah, right.
They are. Hey, Odell Green almost had 300 yards last week.
I know. I'm just yanking your chain, buddy. You know that.
Hey, listen, wrap it up.
All right, coming up in quarter 2, we're going to cover a lot of ground in our District 3 deadline breakdown. Keep it right here. You are watching Fourth Down Magazine's High School Football Now with Eric and Andy. Come on back.
Back to High School Football Now, presented by Fourth Down Magazine.
Okay, welcome back to High School Football Now with Eric and Andy. We are presented by Fourth Down Magazine. You can find us through the Small Player, Big Play app and on YouTube. Remember, Susquehanna Township coach Joe Heaton and H-back linebacker Owen Weiner will be joining us in quarter number 3. But first, it's playoff talk time. District 3 releases brackets. It's all UE. It's a mess.
We talked earlier about the last 24 hours being just an absolute zany ride. Harrisburg, of course, in with the victory over State College and the number 1 seed in District 3 6A, now out after news broke on Tuesday. A letter from the superintendent saying there is a COVID case among the football team. One player who did not travel to State College on Monday, by the way, but was held back here for some other reason. But now the activities obviously have to be shut down. So Harrisburg will now exit the District 3 6A playoffs, and York High, who they were set to host Saturday at Severance Field, will advance via forfeit to the championship round. So that catch you up. So let's start a lot of people. I told you about my text message thread, Twitter thing yesterday. There was no live stream at the game, State College game, so it was basically me and a few other people, photographers covering the game. So the phone was zany. It was just nuts, blown up. A lot of people are angry, obviously, that Harrisburg got the game, and they would have gotten in with a loss to State College anyway as well. They would have been the 2 seed. So anyway, people are just still trying to figure out why McDevitt is undefeated and not in, why Hershey is undefeated and not in. So let's start with a visual. And think about a normal 10-game regular season that we have here, okay? It's a full 10 games as it relates to the power ratings, okay? No one ever looks. I have to plead for you to look. No one ever looks at the power ratings until week 7, correct?
Right. And then you have to drag me there.
And I have to drag you to look at this because we need to talk about it, okay? So by week 7, things are starting to settle into sort of a pattern.
Correct.
And think about a baseball player, okay? Will you pop up or you hit a single to right and your 10th at bat of the season, okay? That really affects your batting average because you've only got 10 at bats. That same hit or pop up to the shortstop in your 300th at bat hardly moves your batting average at all.
Right.
Tens to hundreds of thousands, okay? So it's the same way over the course of a season. Nobody really sees the volatility of the power ratings through 6 or 7 weeks, okay, in a regular season because nobody's paying attention to them. So they don't see the big jumps. You don't say to yourself, I was 2, all of a sudden, why am I 12 after a loss to a 4-1 team? Everything matters. When you're an undefeated team, the only thing that matters is your strength of schedule.
That is it.
And in this season of COVID, when you're only going to get 6 games in,
or 5 in this case,
or 5 in this case, 2 things matter. Number 1, if you're one of those undefeated teams, your strength of schedule seriously matters, okay? Seriously matters. And there's a great possibility, because it's only 5 or 6 weeks, that you're going to have way more undefeated teams than you would at the end of 10 games.
Absolutely.
That was the perfect storm that cost McDevitt a slot in the District 3 Class 4A playoffs. That was the perfect storm. The Conrad Weiser being undefeated. The Elko being undefeated. Lampier Strasburg being undefeated. Okay? And then on top of that, the perfect storm continued for McDevitt.
Yep.
You don't expect Cumberland Valley to be 1-4. You don't expect Cedar Cliff to be 2-3. You don't, you're playing Mifflin County. What are they, 1-4? Are they winless? I'm not sure.
1-4. No, they lost to Palmyra.
Yeah, so whatever it is. So that's what happened. Right. Now, ironically, I wrote, if that game with Hershey goes through, if that game with Hershey happens last week, McDevitt's in.
Right.
McDevitt makes it in with a win. Not with a loss, but they make it in with a win.
Plus, you forgot to mention that every one of the teams on their schedule lost Friday.
Yeah, it was the perfect storm. That's exactly what happened.
Yep.
I mean, if Cedar Cliff beats Carlisle, likely in. Cumberland Valley beats Chambersburg, likely in. Yeah, you're right. Yep. So it's just, it's no fault of McDevitt's, of course. You play who's in front of you. That's what we say all the time. So it's not their fault. You certainly feel for them. This is not a foolproof design. But remember, 6 weeks ago, everybody was pleading just to play football.
Right.
And that's what a lot of coaches have said. They get it. But you certainly allow your players to be upset about it. I mean, we understand it, right? I mean, if you were a player and you said, "Oh, I'm 5-0, how am I not in the playoff?" Of course, I'd feel the same way. But that's essentially what happened.
Right.
Wilson's situation obviously was a little bit different, being stuck in that 4 seed, and now, of course, with Harrisburg bowing out because of the COVID case, Wilson will not be allowed back in. It's what the district set as the established field. Once the field was established,
right,
it can't be changed.
It's COVID, right? So the pandemic is still kind of calling the shots. So in response to that, they had to draw a line in the sand. Okay, when we announce the brackets and they're official and we announce them, that's the cutoff point. In all sports, even in the other sports going forward, if you have a COVID-related issue, we are not restocking or redoing the field. That was just a line they drew in the sand in August. I didn't hear anybody complaining about it.
Right.
In August, it was a rule and regulation that they put forth that's how it's going to be. Okay, we just want to play games.
Yeah, and we'll ask Joheen about this in quarter number 3 too.
Sure.
Being the coach and looking at this, having so much to think about, just trying to get on the field and compete. Were they thinking that this is a possibility? No, nobody was thinking that. You know why? Because nobody looks at the power ratings on a normal situation until week 7.
Yeah,
you just don't. You don't see it. So, I mean, a brutal situation for McDevitt.
It is brutal.
And think about Hershey too. Hershey's having their best year in years, okay? Haven't made the playoffs since, 2013?
Correct.
So if they win 2 out of the next 3 games in a typical year and go 7-3, they're in the playoffs.
Right.
They're in. So they have just as much beef
right.
as anybody. Wilson certainly has a beef. I get it. Let them be upset. It's not, again, District 3 did the best possible thing they could do, fight tooth and nail to get football. And I think deep down the coaches understand that.
Right.
The players will take longer to understand that because they should. They're players. They're the guys knocking heads, and they're doing it to compete with their boys. Yeah, you get it. You absolutely get it. All right, Nate. So that being said, let's run down what we're going to look like here in the district field, okay? We'll start with Class 1A, District 3. Everything's District 3. Friday, we're going to get the 1A final. Steel High travels to JT Flaherty Field, playing DeLone Catholic, who's 6-0. Big win for DeLone, actually, last week, too, against York Catholic.
Yeah, they beat York Catholic.
Right, so that's your single A. No-brainer. Those are the two best teams. We only got 4 in single A, and those are clearly the two best teams. 2A, it was nip and tuck there for Camp Hill, assuming Newport still had 2 games on the schedule for this weekend. And, of course, Monday night with Susquehanna Township. Had to win both to make it interesting. But Camp Hill makes it in as the 2 seed. They'll travel to York Catholic on next Friday, on November 6th, for that 2A championship game. District 3 starts this weekend, Bermudian Springs is the 4. They'll travel to Middletown, who squeaked out the 1 over Wyomissing. That game will be Friday night. And, of course, Boiling Springs is the 3 seed. They will travel to Wyomissing. That game will be Saturday. Yep. Wyomissing doesn't have lights. So they'll play the 2 seed in Wyomissing. All right, who do we got in 4A?
Yeah, this is where it gets a little bit crazy. They're all undefeated, right? Lampeter Strasburg's the 1 seed.
Yeah.
We're going to host Conrad Weiser, also 6-0. They're the 4 seed. And Northern's going to go to Elko. Elko's the 2 seed. Northern Polar Bears are the 3 seed. Combined, those 4 teams are 23-0,
Yeah, and that starts November 6th, the 6-7 weekend. I think actually both of those games are Friday night, November 6th. We'll double check on that too, but yeah.
Yeah, they're both Friday night. Yep.
How about 5A, eh?
5A starts, it's November 6th as well. There'll be Mechanicsburg got pushed by a 4-2 team because of their opponent's winning percentage. That matters. But they're in. They're going to play number 1 seed Governor Mifflin, who's 5-0, and New Oxford after a 5-0 win over Gettysburg.
Yeah.
They sneak in as the 3 seed, and they're going to play the 2nd seed Warwick, who's also undefeated. Again, 4 teams, all of them are unbeaten.
That's correct.
And 6A is crazy. It's Central York. They might have a beef too. They lost a home game.
Central York, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Now they got to travel to Central Dauphin. I mean, it looked like all along that they were going to play York High, right? They were going to play York High, and at least they would have a chance to establish themselves on another level as a 6A program. Now they got to play defending state runner-up Central Dauphin, who's the 2 seed. And the winner of that will play York High the following weekend. Yep,
that'll be the CD game is Friday night. That semifinal, of course, is this Friday night, October 30th.
At the Speedway.
At the Speedway, yeah. And again, I mean, Harrisburg getting in to knock CD 2 wasn't really a big deal, but it would have been had Harrisburg stayed in and beat York. Then you're looking at a Saturday game at Severance as opposed to a home game for the district title. I mean, I know there's not 4,000 people in the stands these days in COVID, but still, that makes a difference. That matters, to get that home venue. So, but just, Wilson's play, going back to that, I mean, to be the victim of sort of Harrisburg's last-minute entry and now can't get back in with Harrisburg having to bow out. I know there's a lot of disgruntled people in West Lawn. A lot of them are on my cell phone with text messages. I get it. I understand. It's not an easy situation. Nothing was perfect about it, but I think all in all, I didn't. We talked about this before. I didn't think we'd get to 5 or 6 games, brother.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. I wasn't sure whether we should be playing or not. I wasn't sure. But here's the bottom line: you could keep playing football. Your season's not over.
Yes.
Right? They said you could keep playing football for a few more weeks. I mean, Hershey's got 3 more games, right? They're playing Cumberland Valley, and they got a game with McDevitt. So
Yeah.
You keep playing football. It's 2020. It's COVID. Be glad we're just playing football and enjoy it.
And it's interesting too because I had somebody, some phantom, email me about McDevitt being actually going to 3 in the state rank or staying at 4 in the state rankings when they're not in the playoffs. I'm like, well, if they were in the playoffs, I think they might have won the district and made it to the state semifinals. And they're going to continue to play football for as long as they can. I mean, if you're not in a national championship game, you don't get rid of everybody else.
Right.
You know what I mean? So they're still gonna stay in the state rankings because we feel they're an unbelievable football team and had high hopes and high potential. So we're gonna keep those kind of teams around.
All right. Yeah. That'll do it. Let's wrap it up.
All right.
Owen Weiner, H-back linebacker from Susquehanna Township, and his head football coach, Joe Heaton. They're going to join us. Stick around for that. We'll be right back.
This is High School Football Now, presented by Fourth Down Magazine.
Welcome back to High School Football Now with Eric and Andy. We are presented by Fourth Down Magazine. We hope you enjoyed that look at the District 3 bracket breakdown. Zaniness all over the district in the last few hours to fill out those brackets. More news obviously popped Tuesday about Harrisburg's case. They are now out of the District 3 6A playoffs. We will talk more about that as well. But for now, it's actual football players and the guys who make it happen on Friday nights. We welcome in head coach Joe Heaton of Susquehanna Township and H-back linebacker Owen Weiner. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us, guys. Always a pleasure.
All right. First question is, let's just scale it back 24 hours. 29-7 victory over Newport. First win of the season. It's always good to get off the schneid. I know it's been sort of a staggered start for you guys and getting that first W. But, Owen, how does it feel to kind of get that monkey off your back?
It feels great because Coach Sheen said to me on Friday after the Northern game, he said, we're winning Monday. He said, without a doubt, 100%, we're winning Monday. There's no question if ands or buts about it. We had to have like a short-term memory after that heartbreaking loss on Friday. We had to play a game 3 days later. So it felt good to get a win in the win column. And now just go West Carey next week.
What sort of went right for you there? When maybe in games that things didn't go right. What was the main factor in the victory?
I think it was everyone played together. We had to forget, like I said, we had to forget about last game and move on to the next game. Realize that we all have to come together as a team to win a football game. All of our 43 players have to play together, play as brothers.
Hey, Owen, I wanted to ask you quick. So in the COVID world of football, teams have been playing Friday and Tuesday or Tuesday and Friday or Mondays and stuff like that. I want to ask you as a player, 3 days, you played Friday, you have Saturday, Sunday off, you play again Monday. What was it like for your body? We've heard people say, well, what about the kids? Is it healthy? Is it safe? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not a player. You'd have to ask a player that. So I'm going to ask you, what was it like to turn around, 72 hours later and be back on the field again? How was it, and what did you have to do to adjust?
Well, it was interesting. I never had to do that a day in my life before.
That's COVID, right?
Yeah.
Everything's different.
Something I never experienced before. I never played a full varsity high school football game and then had to play another one on Monday, ever. Adjusting wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. Just had to have a short-term memory and just had to keep moving, really.
So normally when you play a game, you kind of wake up and you played a football game Saturday morning, right? But when did you, body-wise, what did you feel like? Were you a little sluggish and you had to kind of mentally get yourself to tell your body to get moving? Like it's not a Monday practice, it's a Monday game. But what was it like for you physically? That's the other part of it. And I have no agenda. I'm just asking.
Well, the day after the game, Coach Heaton had us at the field at 8:30 in the morning to get our bodies moving again.
And then to turn around and have to play again Monday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How was it physically?
He didn't want to sit at home all day and then come back the next day and still be sore. So it was good to get out and start moving again to help our bodies.
Excellent. All right. Thanks, E.
Coach, I wanted to ask you, what's it really been like? I mean, you guys have had to jumped through 1,000 hoops, and not just you. Every team in the state has had to jump through 1,000 hoops to get to this point. You now got 4 games in. Some teams have got to 7, some to 6, 5, and you name it. Some teams are still waiting to get off the curb and play. I mean, how exhausting has it been for you? Not so much physically, but mentally.
Well, it's like Andy said earlier, and I think every coach in America, no matter what the sport, is going to say that 2020 is unlike any. But I think we'll all be better coaches from it. So for us, I think it goes back further than that with the start-stop, because if you remember that first week of August, we had a shutdown, and that was the week right before we were supposed to start the heat acclimation, because a staff member who had not been around had contracted COVID. But again, you err on the side of caution, and they shut everything down. So we had really had a plan going, and then the plan was to get 21 practices in before you get to that first game. I learned that from Tim Rimple. You got to get 21 before you get a game. And I knew we weren't going to get 21 as soon as they shut us down. And that really, in the back of my mind, is like, okay, don't panic. What's next? So then we were shut down for that. Then we get going. We get our scrimmage with Cumberland Valley. We get our first game in, and, we're all football guys. It's, okay, week 1 to week 2. We weren't at our best week 1 versus Greencastle. We knew that. They took advantage of our mistakes, and, we didn't come together well. And then you get to school Monday, it's a day off, and you get a call at 9 a.m., and you're like, boom. And you're just devastated, because now I really know it's going to be tough. And then when you look at it and it's 2 weeks, and you're coming back to play a Mechanicsburg team that is arguably the best team they've had. And I'm not since Rich was there, and bless his soul, because that was a Rich thing. The way they're playing right now reminds me so much of the way Rich coached them.
Exactly.
And I remember one time I tell this story, and I learned a lot from Rich and being around Coach Chapman and Coach Fell, and they were all great friends. One of my early years at McDevitt at Susquehanna, we lost, and Rich scored late in the game, and they whipped us. It was like 42-7. And we're talking, and it was just like, Joe, you just got to get better. And it's one of those things, and that was Rich. He was always a straight shooter, And so normally we got to come back and play a Mechanicsburg team. I knew our backs were against the wall. So we get going there. So, we actually had a startup, a stop, a startup, and then we're going again. And it's difficult, but our kids got through it. We got through it. I know it's made me a better coach and planning-wise. I think it's made all coaches better, but I know that every coach hopes we never have to go through this again. But who knows? We may be sitting in the same situation 11 months from now, 10 months from now, and we have, if we want to play, we have to continue to do things we're doing and be better at it and be safe. And, it takes us, and I think every staff around, it takes you 30 minutes to do your health screenings every day. And that stuff you don't put into play. Like last night, we're getting ready to leave, and typically after school, you can get a meal, a walk-through, a good bathroom break, and on the bus. That doesn't happen anymore.
Right.
So any team that gets a win this year, their coaches deserve it, because people talk about how tough it is to win. It's even tougher to win this year.
So, Coach E, now let me follow up. So you talked about, you guys had to start and stop and start and stop. Was Monday night the first time you thought it didn't feel like a bit of a scrimmage for you guys? Like you had control of the football team, and the football team was responding the way you expected them to with all you've had to deal with? Was Monday night, and you gave Northern a snootful, but it's still a 48-minute game, right? That's hard. That's a hard team to keep down for 48 minutes, right?
No doubt.
We were good for 30. You were good for 36, and then they came back.
No doubt.
But was Monday night the first time you thought, okay, we've had a little bit of continuity? This doesn't feel kind of like a scrimmage or a controlled, the controlled chaos, and we're controlling as little bit of it as we can.
You know what, Andy? To be honest with you, it was Saturday when I knew we were there.
Gotcha.
And the reason why was I thought coming out of Mechanicsburg, which, I don't know how you guys do it, but you picked that freaking score. You picked 39-7. It was freaking 40-7. But we won't talk about that. But it was Mechanicsburg was such a crazy game for us. It was like we did so many things well, but we started off the game with two straight turnovers. And versus a good team, you can't do that. So before you blink, it's 14-0. And then you get to 21. And then the next thing you know, the second half, they steamroll you off of your mistakes you made, and that kid is very good. So I'm like, okay, I like what I saw on offense. Going into Northern York, it was the same way. But then when we got on the bus and we were going home on Friday, I said the best thing that could happen for us right now is to play Monday, because then the kids aren't going to sit around Saturday and be like, man, then they're not going to get to Sunday. And then Monday let Friday beat us. So to answer your question, I knew going home on Friday night that we were going to be okay. Regardless, to be honest with you, regardless of who our opponent was, whether it was Newport, anybody we could play on Monday, I just knew that we were going to be okay. And when, and high school kids are high school kids.
Right.
When every kid showed up on Saturday morning at 8:15 and we were ready to work, that's when I knew, okay, we're going to be all right the rest of the season. And we'll try to play as many as we can before, the wheels fall off of it. But it was Friday night when I knew.
Gents, I'm going to ask both of you this question because I think I'd love to hear what a player thinks and obviously what a coach thinks. We talked a little bit before we went on the air about the controversy surrounding the qualification for the District 3 playoffs. Two undefeated teams that you guys are well familiar with, Bishop McDevitt and Hershey, did not make it in. It was one of those years, an abbreviated year, where there was multiple. I think there were 5 or 6 undefeated teams. Normally in a 10-game schedule, you don't see that. So it was sort of a perfect storm that kept Bishop McDevitt out, and, of course, Wilson in 6A. But I want to focus more on McDevitt. Oh, and this is for you. I mean, I know a lot of people could say, hey, you knew what the rules were. We're getting football in, and this is what we had to play with. This is how it is. As a player, is that enough? I mean, I know you just want to play football, but as a player, I would think you're sort of opposite of that thought process.
Well, it's especially hard for them. They're undefeated, and I've never seen a team that's undefeated not make the playoffs. That's just me. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that in high school football, but I haven't.
Nope.
And I would feel the same way if I were them. I would be mad. I'll probably be upset at the PIAA, but that's the rules. Can't really do anything about it.
Right.
I mean, I feel for those seniors too. I know a couple of those seniors on that team. They're good kids. They play hard, and they just want to win football games and championships, and they can't do that this year.
Coach, what's your whole thought behind it?
Well, I got 2 trains of thought behind that. I think from the very beginning as a coach and even as fans, when that first came out, you look back in the summer when the Mid-Penn District first came out with that, they're like, okay, they're going to try and get this done. And here's your 4 teams. But I don't think anybody really focused on what could happen at that point once they saw the way it was going to go. And I still believe that even coaches were not truly aware and understood how it was going to play out, because when they saw 4 games, they were like, okay, we get 4 games in, we can send in our qualification, and then it'll play out like it normally does. Like the normal deadline is October. You fill out the paperwork that you look like you're going to be eligible for playoffs to go from there. And then when the reality set in that, oh, shoot, the 26th is it, then it was like, hold on, it's got to change. So I think that just like everything else in 2020, I don't think everybody really knew how this thing was going to play out. Like they had an idea, and then now that it's playing out and the reality hits in, it is a hard pill to swallow. And especially for 4 and 5, with them not starting till the 6th, maybe there could have been that leeway there. Or, then I look at a situation like ours where we're at, we could have been 2-2 and made 3A, even with all the mess that was going on, or even be 3-1 and made 3A. But so again, yes, happy to play, but the competitor in you is like, man, we got to keep playing. know, so it's a tough pill to swallow. It's a tough way to go out. I feel for all those teams. You know, Mechanicsburg, who's having their best, like I said, they were looking at a tough situation going through there as well.
Yeah.
They were real close to it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Situation that
close to
Garrett and obviously with Harrisburg. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah. Yep. We talked about that. Oh, and I wanted to ask you you guys had all the start and stops that Coach talked about, and we have. So what'd you see Friday and Monday from you guys? Close loss to Northern, win on Monday, that you didn't see the first two games you got to play. Football wise, what did you see that you thought was a good sign or the best sign for you guys for the last 5 days when you played two games 2 days apart that you didn't see in the first two games?
And I'll dead on pinpoint it. In Greencastle, I didn't see confidence. I didn't see a true understanding of what they were being asked to do. It was still coming together, especially with guys that played that didn't have varsity experience. And then when you get to Mechanicsburg, it was the mental mistakes of not dealing with adverse situations and learning how to come through them, because those mistakes in the Mechanicsburg game were early. I've coached veteran teams, and players have competed on veteran teams where those mistakes happen early. It's okay because the game is long. And you can fix those things. So I think that was it. And then when we got to Northern on Friday, I did see it clicking in their faces. And when you say something to them, it's like, okay, I got it, I understand it, And to have we had two mental breakdowns on Friday that cost us. So again, that's just knowing. And being lucky enough to coach for so many years, you sort of know when it's going to click,
right?
And that's exactly where it did.
Real quick, on what have you seen football wise? What do you think's the biggest difference the last two games as compared to the first two, from your perspective?
Great question.
Yeah,
I just think that we've got enough repetition in that the kids understand. Okay, when I do pull, I do got to go tight, because if I don't, that guy's going to come underneath me. Like little things like that, or if we're in a 3-by-1, if I line up too tight, that's going to bring an extra defender in the box. Like just little things like that. Because when you go back and you watch the film, I always tell the kids, we watch film, and I go, what if you would have won here? He'd still be running to the State Police Building from Roscoe Warner Field. Just little things like that they have to understand and see. And when those things click, and we're sitting in a meeting and we're watching film, and our kids go, wow, Coach, you were right. And we're like, hey, it's an easy game. I think every coach has said it's an easy game. You guys just have to trust and believe in what you're told to do.
All right, that'll do it, E. I think we take them out.
All right, gentlemen. We certainly appreciate your time. Congratulations on the win. Keep it going. I know you got some football left, didn't you? For 2020. Coming up, quarter number 4. It's our picks and predictions. You're listening to High School Football Now with Eric and Andy right here, 4th Down Magazine. Come on back.
This is High School Football Now, presented by 4th Down Magazine.
Welcome back to High School Football Now with Eric and Andy. We are presented by 4th Down Magazine and hosted by the engaging Small Player, Big Player app. Our picks and predictions, of course, are sponsored by Crown Trophy. Go to crowntrophy.com for all your trophy needs. Quick Shepler Cup update. Well done, Mr. Epler. You were 9-2 last week. You are 36-14 overall. One slight problem. I was 10-1 last week, and I'm 40-10 overall. I got a 4-game lead. Get ready to climb uphill, brother. 4 games is a big gap.
That's huge.
I've chased you with a 4-game deficit, and it's not easy to make up.
Big hole.
Especially because we got playoffs, and now we got 5 games.
Exactly. Things get a little tighter now. They get tighter now.
It's tighter now. It's tougher now. And a 4-game lead is big. It's like a 6-goal lead in hockey. Like you're not catching it. So, all right, let's rip into it this week. We got playoff games to get to. We got regular games to get to, some good ones. So let's go ripping. We're going to start with the District 3 1A championship game. The undefeated Steel High Rollers are going to go to JT Flaherty Field in McSherrystown. Played DeLone Catholic. Rematch of last year. DeLone's also undefeated 6-0.
It is, yeah, to a semifinal last year, won by DeLone Catholic 29-24. Steel High made a ton of mistakes in that football game, one after another. There was a safety, bad snap equal a safety. There were a couple interceptions, some fumbles. It just was undisciplined football by the Rollers, and it was only a 5-point loss. So I haven't seen that at Steel High this year. I've seen a lot of great assignment football from the Rollers. Yeah, they're high-flying, and yeah, they send those guys out. They got 6'3" wideouts who love to go get it and high point the ball. But big factor here, too, all year has been running back Odell Green. So they could get him going. I think they got way enough firepower to win this football game. I will take the Rollers.
I will take Steel High as well. So you slow the Rollers down, right? That the result of that is 36 points. That's what Campbell did. They slowed them down, right?
Right.
Stallone has to avoid the explosion. And doesn't that just kind of feel impossible?
It does. I mean, at this point, yes. At this point, yes.
How much is it going to be? It just feels impossible. I'm going to – I agree with you that Odell Green is the key for them, but I'm going with the Rollers defense. I think they set the table in this one in the first half, and this will tell you where the Rollers are going. They need to get off the field on third down, maybe 2 out of every 5 third down, and give the ball back to the scoreboard record on offense. Is this grass in McSherry's town?
Tackle.
Do they still have high grass? They still have grass?
You know what? I don't know.
I think they do.
I think they still have grass, yeah.
It's going to be high.
Yeah.
It's going to be high in October.
2.5.
All right, the D3 Class 3A semifinal, Bermudian Springs 4-2 at 3-1 Middletown. This one's at War Memorial Field in Middletown. Epler?
Even though it hasn't been the smoothest ride for Middletown so far, I still feel like they've gotten better and more aggressive with who they put out in the field. Again, Tony Powell's probably not going to play in this, the quarterback.
Right.
Been down all year. But I still feel like the linemen are gelling a little bit better. They're getting more physical. They're getting more, not only just those pounding yards from Tamir, but they're also getting some big plays. The minions out wide are making some big plays. The defense are making more TFLs. I just feel like they're cranking toward a big performance, a complete performance for 48 minutes. I think it could come this week, this Friday at home. I'm taking Middletown big here.
Both teams are going to want to slam the rock right at you, right? Yeah. And Tymir Jackson will slam on both sides of the ball. So will Tajay Brody. I mean, having him at fullback is just ridiculous to me. It's fun to watch, but it's almost like, he's 6'6", 240 pounds, and they hand him the ball in tight spaces. It's just fun to watch. I think the Blue Raiders have some wideouts that are good. And the quarterback, even though Tony Powell's not going to play, they can take some shots and land him, and that provides them a little more separation on the scoreboard. So I am going to take Middletown, the other 3A semifinal, the Boiling Springs Bubblers. They're going to go to Wyomissing High School Saturday because they don't have lights. Spartans are undefeated.
Look at the arm. Look at the goosebumps, eh? It's Wing T versus Wing T. When do you get a chance to see that? Never. Never. It's got to be T-shirts made, something, koozies. We got to get something involved. It just says Wing T versus Wing T. Deal with it. That's what we need to go for.
In black.
Yeah, exactly. Wyomissing does some things very well. One is just pound it. They probably have 6 to 7 guys who consistently run the football for them.
They do.
Zach Zekman, the quarterback, is a really good pilot. He doesn't need to chuck it around.
I like that word.
Yeah, they don't make many mistakes. They're one of those lean teams, those grinders. They sort of grind you to a halt and just sort of do what they do. And the next thing you know, you're down a couple touchdowns. So I give Boiling Springs a whale of credit for that win last week against Camp Hill. This is a much different test, though. And this is going to test their aggressiveness and their physicality. I think Boiling Springs is a good physical football team, but I don't know if they're physical enough to beat this Wyomissing team, especially on the road. So I'm going to take Wyomissing, but there could be some scary moments for those guys, for the Saints in this one.
I'll take Wyomissing as well. So did you know, Mr. Epler,
Yeah,
Despite giving up, they've only given up 9 points this year. Why missing
9 points. Yeah, 9 points all year.
in 5 games? They have the worst opponents weighted winning percentage, the OWWP that
True.
we talked about earlier, how important it was. It's 240. That's awful. That's below bad. I mean, we were
Not
like,
good.
that is awful. That's not their fault, but they haven't played anybody. So that 9-point surrender doesn't fly with me. The Bubblers are physical. They have a little more speed and zip than you think. Wyoming's got more depth. They're going to come at you in waves. I don't know. We're talking about wing T versus wing T. Who completes more of the tight end waggles? Is that a key? I don't know. I'm just asking. All I'm going to say is the Bubblers belong on this field, and I have a sneaky feeling they're going to show up. And I agree with you. It could be tight end spots for Wyoming. All right, D3 6A semifinals. Central York 6-0 at Central Dauphin. The Rams are undefeated. This will be at the Speedway Friday night. Rematch of 2 years ago, was it? Yes. They played 2 years ago at Landis Field.
There was another Prabula running the show then. This is Bo Prabula, the quarterback for Central York. He's leading the squad to 59 points a game. The last two totals were 75 and 70. It's just ridiculous. You know, what's that? What's the great video game? Madden. These are like Madden numbers.
The Madden numbers, yeah.
These guys at Central York, Tecmo Bowl. There it is, Tecmo Bowl. You know, he's going to need all his improv skills because Central Dauphin absolutely is going to have to dial up a lot of pressure to put on him and force him into some bad decisions. I think over the long run, they will do that. And Central Dauphin, I think at this point too, is feeling a little bit ticked off, you know, not being the one, being involved in all this. So I think Central Dauphin will win this football game. I don't know about a margin. Because I've only seen film on Central York. I haven't gotten eyes on them up close. But yeah, this is a big chance. You mentioned it earlier. It's a big chance for Central York.
All right, I'm going to take Central Dauphin too. I'm just wondering, do you think this becomes a shootout?
I think the potential is there, but I also think that Central Dauphin's had plenty of time to kind of gauge who this opponent is and how to attack them. And slow Bo down. So I think they'll be more than ready. I don't know how much of a shootout. It's certainly Central Dauphin doesn't want to play a shootout here.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. And
yeah.
We know against better competitions, the Rams have some depth at their weapons, right, to throw at Central York.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's whether Central York is, through their 6 games, is prepared for this. I mean, is Bo enough at quarterback? You know, is he enough of a counter for everything else we've seen them do at this level that tells us that it's going to be different this time? I mean, they played Central Dauphin 2 years ago, Harrisburg last year, and they got gobsmacked in both games. Something tells me a defensive struggle is going to break out in this one. I don't know.
Well, even if you feel like they can get to 21 or 28 points, which would be a heck of a lot against Central Dauphin, that's not going to be enough.
Right. All right, York High and Harrisburg. No, never mind.
Moving on. Harrisburg's now. Congratulations to York for a good win. They're in the finals.
District 6 4A final, Belfont and Juniata. This is going to be at the Ravens Den in Altoona.
The Haunted Mansion.
7 o'clock. What do you think, E?
The Red Raiders have worked their tails off to get back to even after an 0-3 start. Belfont was on the watch list in 4A in the preseason state rankings. Thought they were going to be pretty good, and boom, 0-3 they start out. But in this one, I still like Jacob Kondo. I like the quarterback from Juniata. I like what the Juniata's doing. I think they'll get enough. They'll make enough hay out of Caleb Seeger and Yanil Ortiz, the running backs. They sort of take turns making big plays. Yep. They're tough between the tackles. They're tough outside of the tackles. And Juniata's defense has held firm on occasion. They've been not great in some stretches, but for the most part, they've done a pretty good job. I'm taking Juniata here. I think they win this title. I think they win this District 6 title.
Yeah, I'm going to take Juniata as well. I think, like you, it's going to be a tight game. You're spot on about getting Seeger and Ortiz going to make Kondo the real threat.
Yeah.
And the difference maker in this game. If they can kind of get that formula going, I think it's their game to take.
Feels
right.
like a weird one, It feels like a weird outcome. 29-25, something like that.
I'm going to go 26-22. It's the Ravens.
Something weird. Yeah.
Something weird happens. It's Mansion Park in Altoona. All right, regular football games that are not playoff football games. Are you ready?
Yes.
PD East is at Carlisle Friday at Ken Millen Stadium.
Carlisle has to be the pick here. As much as I admire Coach Blanding, that offense just has not gotten better. They can't put enough points on the board. And Carlisle just coming off a big win against Cedar Cliff. I like Carlisle moving that way.
Yeah, I'll take Carlisle too. They've just shown too much pop offensively. For CD East will put up a fight, right? They do.
Of course.
But when your offense is only giving you one touchdown a game on average, man, that's a long hill to climb up against.
Yep.
And that's a tough one, and it's going to show up here. All right, 5-0 Bishop McDevitt, 5-0 Hershey, Concrete Palace, Hershey Park Stadium Friday night.
Boy, tough go out for Bishop McDevitt. They're going to be ripe after missing the postseason, being 5-0. Hershey has a gripe as well. Both teams have something to play for here. It's a Keystone Division title. That's that's pales in comparison. I get it. But this one will decide it at the Palace. After what McDevitt has kind of gone through here and being what perennial favorite, I have to pick McDevitt.
I'll take Bishop McDevitt. Well, I mean, both teams are undefeated, and they're on the outside of the playoff COVID-19 plexiglass looking to get in. They both have an axe to grind here, kind of, I mean, McDevitt's is, it's because they're McDevitt, and Hershey's come out of nowhere to put together a 5-0 season. The spotlight's been on McDevitt, but Hershey's undefeated too. Their defense has been better this season. That hypothesis of whether their defense is actually better will get a full metal jacket test. I don't think the Trojans have to win this game to stake their claim as a better program.
No, I don't think so. Right.
But just be competitive, right? That's all we ask. All right, Northern and Waynesboro.
Good tune-up for the
Cannon
Bears.
Automotive Field. Best name ever.
You love that place.
I love it.
Good tune-up for the Polar Bears, leading into the playoffs the following week. And plus, they're staying in the race for the Colonial Division title. Them and Mechanicsburg are tied atop it. So I think Northern wins. I can see Waynesboro stepping back in and being competitive. I know they've had a rough couple of weeks. But that running game can be good, can be very good. And Northern has not been, not exactly been a wall against the run.
Right.
They've been decent, but not great. So I'll take Northern.
I'll take Northern too. The Polar Bears have been in a pickle the last two games and found a way to win against Greencastle and Susquehanna Township. The fact they were in tight spots against those teams, that's a little bit of a reason to have a pause for concern. Waynesboro's lost their mojo, but they can get it, they can find it real quick because they're a ground and pound team, but I'm still going to take Northern. All right, East Pennsboro's at Mechanicsburg, John H. Frederick Field. Enjoy the train as it goes by.
Yeah, I was on East Penn. I got jumped on. I got to jump off now. I got to jump back on the Mechanicsburg train, which I never really left, but I'm still back on Mechanicsburg. I'll take Mechanicsburg.
Yeah, the playoffs start next week. What do you do? I'm just kind of wondering. Mechanicsburg's got a lot to work on. Each game matters. You have a division title. That matters too. Did you know the last time the Panthers beat the Wildcats? In the 41st meeting between these two teams that'll be played on Friday night since 1961. The last time East Pennsboro won this game was 1988.
Really?
You know the biggest song of 1988 was, Epler?
It had to be a Madonna song.
Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses.
Last
one real quick, Calico, Manheim Township.
Yeah, Manheim Township. I like the Blue Streaks. They got a good color wheel, good uniform combination. I'll go with Mark Evans and the Streaks.
Yeah, I'll take Manheim Township. Whatever the Blue Streaks were looking for early in the season when they started 0-2, they found it.
They did. They absolutely did.
Yep.
All right, partner. That'll do it for this edition. High School Football Now with Andy and Eric. We are presented by Fourth Down Magazine and the proud folks at Small Player Big Play app. That's where you can find us each week. Special thanks to our guests, Coach Joe Heeden and Owen Weiner of Susquehanna Township. Best of luck to them for the rest of the regular season. Best of luck to the playoff teams that are in action this week and next week. And, of course, we'll bring you another full 60 minutes or so of Central PA football next week. Thanks, partner. Appreciate it.
Stay safe.
You do the same. All right, high school football now. That'll do it. Come on back next week. Take care.
See ya.